John Gwaltzka. Sorry, John, if I blew that. Basically says when we were kids in the 1960s, it was cool to be the counterculture and fight the man. Considering how the protards control the media, education, Hollywood, etc., aren't they the man now? And hasn't it become cool, the cool thing for kids to be conservative, libertarian? Yes, but yes, but there is a fair amount of evidence that the generation following the millennials, that Generation Z, is more conservative and perhaps significantly more conservative than the millennials are. They're rebelling against their older siblings, or in some cases, their young parents, and their constant sort of whininess and just general unappetizing qualities. There's the whole kind of all we do is protest. All we know how to do is protest. All we do is there seems to be some evidence for that, but again, the the cool is determined. It's a group selection thing. It's we all determine what is cool at any given time. James Dean is obviously one of the coolest guys I think who ever lived. James Dean was a counterculture force. James Dean was cool in fighting against kind of this very staid kind of rigid Eisenhower America as outlined by thank you, Bill, as outlined by Thurston Howell III, who had played his father. But nowadays, if you're hoping for a rebellion against the left, all of the cool kids are on the left. It's a much tougher thing to do, which is why the Kanye thing was so enormously important. Kanye West, I wasn't a fan. I've become more of a fan, not only because he's waking up in front of my eyes, but also because he refuses to back down, and I admire that. But basically, you could make the case that Kanye West is the coolest single individual in the entire pop culture. And for him to say, I like Donald Trump and I listen to Thomas Sowell, is a catastrophe for the left. Because now you've got somebody who could actually carry the torch of the counter-revolution against the man. And when Kanye West, talks about, liking Trump and stuff, but he said some other things that are interesting too. He said Obama was president for 8 years. He didn't do anything for Black America. That message needs to be repeated significantly. So I think that is important. So there's a problem, John. When we were kids, all the cool kids were in the counterculture. Now that we're adults, all the cool kids are in the culture. And all of us nerdy conservatives are the counterculture. Sometimes people will, very kindly say things like, yeah, Bill's a conservative star. And it's like my response to this always, the second I get to the mic, is if I'm a celebrity, then this movement is in real trouble. I was watching. There's a cool little jazz club that we went to, and that some of you mentioned already. We went to a little while ago, Natasha and I. And to my surprise, I was looking at the schedule, and I saw coming up Seth MacFarlane, who is the guy behind Family Guy and American Dad and all the rest of this stuff. Seth is a big old progressive, and he's sitting on the. I watched him in a clip sitting on Graham Norton's show, sitting right next to Charlize Theron. They were in a movie together. I forget, Million Ways to Die or something. I forget what it was called. Anyway, I'm looking at Seth MacFarlane doing these impressions, and there's, Charlize Theron laughing, and there's, Will Ferrell there, and whoever else is there, and I think, man. I remember feeling it just like this wave. It's like, could I be on the cool guy team just once? And you see all these actors and all these people who you admire, and good point, Eric Blake. And and you just wish, you just would like be like, I wish I could hang with them. I wish I could be on that team. I don't want to be on that team, but it would be nice just for once to be on the team with the cool people, because they carry so much emotional, psychological weight. Now, Eric M. Blake just said, right now the coolest dude in Hollywood is Chris Pratt, and he's a transparent closet conservative. He is, in fact, the coolest dude in Hollywood, Chris Pratt. I'd put Chris Pratt in the top 3 or 4 or 5 people in terms of influential right now. He's terrific. And there's no question he's a conservative. None. And A Million Ways to Die in the West. Thanks, Lord Teal. That was the movie with Seth and Charlize. Yeah, and Chris Pratt. So now the question is, does Kanye West take enough heat so that people like Chris Pratt and the rest of them can kind of come out and say, yeah, I kind of agree with Kanye on some of these things. I don't know. But he is really the hope, the hope is that a tipping point will come, and it will be, in fact, exactly like this example I've been using for 12 years now. It really will be like the end of The Emperor's New Clothes, where all of a sudden everybody on the parade will realize at the same time that they all actually felt the same way, and they were all just kind of agreeing with other people because they wanted to get along, and that really the number of people who actually believe this progressive nonsense is really pretty small, and that most people never admit it, but most people really think, that this whole, whiny social justice warrior things they're just a bunch of weenies. Just shut up, take it easy. You're offended by this, big deal. How hard is that? You got offended by anything. You're offended by the color of the sidewalk, for God's sake. That's not an achievement in life. Shut up, go away, leave me alone. Take your noise and your whining someplace else. I'd like to think we'd get to that point. I think that many people feel that. And if we have a few more Conways of that magnitude, I meant to say, we could see it could happen very fast. It could just really be a tipping point thing. Everything just goes boom. We'll find out, John.